Hello, students. A very good morning to you and welcome you all in the new academic session. I hope you all are well. So, students, today we are going to start our first chapter in class 8 science, that is crop production. So, first of all, we will see what we are going to study in this chapter. So, let's have a look. First of all, in this chapter, we will study about crop plants and crop seasons. Then, we will study what are the basic practices of crop production, in which we will study about some of the steps as preparation of soil, sowing of seeds, application of manures and fertilizers, irrigation, weeding, harvesting, and storage. And the last topic of this chapter is food from animals. So, students, in your previous classes, you have studied about food and what is the importance of food. So, we have studied that something that we eat or the substance that we eat, that substance is called food. Now, why do we need food? We need food to survive. How we survive? Because of food. We survive because of food. We survive on food. Why? Because food gives us energy. So we have studied that in our food so many type of nutrients are present, and all nutrients help our body to survive. All these nutrients, they help our body to perform our daily life activities, to perform life processes as respiration, excretion, circulation, reproduction. All these processes, all these life processes, they are carried out because of the food. Because we have studied in our food different type of nutrients are present. Some of the nutrients, they provide us energy. Some nutrients help in maintaining our body structure. Some nutrients, they protect us from so many type of diseases. So we know that the nutrients which are present in our food, they help our body to perform our daily life activities, to perform our life processes. Then in your previous classes you have studied about how, from where do we get food. So in that we have studied that food is obtained from plants and animals. Means there are two main sources of food: plant sources and animal sources. So in animal sources we have studied that so many type of food we get from animals, as we get milk, honey, meat, eggs, different type of food materials we get from animals. Just like that, we have studied that different type of food materials we get from plants also. So all the food items that we get from plants, they come under agriculture. Means how we get them, how we grow them, all these food items, they we study under agriculture. Now what is agriculture? Agriculture word is made up of, it is derived from two Latin words. First one is ager. Ager means field or land. And next word is cultura. Cultura means cultivation. Means when we cultivate, we grow crops or plants on field or land, then it is agriculture. So agriculture is the branch of science. It is a branch of science, and in this branch of science we study how the plants are grown and how we raise the leaf stalks. Why? For human use. So we can say the branch of science that deals with the growing plants, means growing crops and raising leaf stalks for human use, is called agriculture. So we know, students, that India is an agricultural country. Agriculture is the backbone of Indian economy. We know that agriculture and its allied activities, means activities related to agriculture, these are the main sources of livelihood for more than 80% population of rural India. And yes, it contributes near about 16% to country's GDP. So agriculture is very important in our country, so we should know all, each and everything about agriculture. So we know agriculture is the branch of science which deals with growing plants or growing crops and raising livestock. Okay, Now, next topic is crop plants. So we know that we grow plants in field, and from that plants we get so many types of products we get. So suppose we are growing same type of plants, same type of plants means same kind of plants we are growing in a field on a large scale. Okay, not on a small scale, on a large scale we are growing same type of plants, same kind of plant. Then then they're called crop plants, all or crop means when the plants of the same kind are grown in a field on a large scale, then they are called crop plants or crop. As for example, we can say crop of rice. Crop of rice means all the plants that are grown in a field on a large scale are of rice. Suppose we are saying crop of wheat, it means we have grown the plants of wheat on a large scale. Okay. Now, students, how the plants are growing in nature, on the basis of this, we can divide the plants into two categories: cultivated plants and wild plants. So, cultivated plants are the plants which are grown by farmers. Farmers grow the plants in field, they take care of them, look after them, they irrigate them, they give them manures and fertilizers, and properly take care of the plants. Such plants are called cultivated plants. So, not only the crop plants, the plants that we grow at our home also, we give them water, we give them fertilizers, or we give them compost means manures. So such plants are called cultivated plants means the plants which are properly attended by human beings means farmers or by us. So such type of plants are called cultivated plants. As rice, crop of rice or crop of wheat, or suppose we are growing some plants as rose plant or hibiscus plants, we are properly take care of these plants, so such plants are called cultivated plants. In contrast to cultivated plants, wild plants are the plants which grow in nature by themselves means we do not grow them, they grow in nature by themselves, and they are unattended by human beings means we do not take care of them. We generally we do not irrigate them, or we do not give them manures or fertilizers. Such plants are called wild plants. So some of the wild plants, they are very good for us means they are important for us, we use them. And some plants which are completely undesirable, and such plants, these plants are called weeds. Now, classification of crops means how we can classify the crops. So crops can be classified on two bases. First one is on the basis of the products obtained means what we are obtaining, what products we are obtaining from the crop plants. And next one on the basis of crop season. So first of all we will see on the basis of the products obtained means what are the products we obtain from such particular type of crops. So first one is this thing you have studied in class 6th also, that we have studied about cereals, pulses, oil seeds and the example. So here we have to study about the crops. So first one is cereals or grain crops. So we know in cereals or grain crops, rice, wheat, maize, oat, barley, so many other type of crops are there, and we know that these crops are rich in carbohydrates. Next type of crops, these are the pulses, or they are called legume crops. They are called legume crops because they are obtained, they grow in a family called Leguminosae. So about that family you will study in higher classes. So we get so many type of pulses or legume crops from Leguminosae family. So these examples are gram, pea, bean, and so many other type of crops are there. So these crops, even that groundnut and soybean also we get from that plants, legume crops. So such crops are called legume crops, and we know that pulses are rich in proteins. Next one is oil seed crops. So oil seed crops are mustard, means the crops from which we get oil. From the seeds of that plants we get oil. So examples are mustard, groundnut, soybean, and so many other plants are there. So these are rich in fats. Next one is fiber crops. So in fiber crops, so many type of crops we have studied from which we get fibers. That thing we have studied in class 6th. About plant fibers we have studied in class 6, and about animal fiber we have studied in class 7th. So cotton, jute, flax, these are the fiber crops, and we know that fiber crops, these fibers are made up of cellulose. Cellulose is one of the carbohydrates. Now next one is root crop. Root crop means the crops from which we get the product, which are roots and which we used to eat. So sweet potato, carrot, radish, and so many other type of crops are there. Next one is tuber crop. Tuber crop, in tuber crop we get potato. Potato, we know that it is underground stem and it is called tuber. Next one is tapioca. Now, next one is the classification of crops on the basis of crop seasons. So, first of all, we will see Rabi crops. So, Rabi crops are the crops that are grown in winter season. Okay, these crops they are grown in winter season. Such crops are called winter season crops. So rabi crops are called winter season crops. These crops are sown in, they are grown in October and November, means in the beginning of winter season, and they are harvested in March and April. So such type of crops which are grown in winter, in the beginning of winter, means they are sown in October and November, and they are harvested in March and April. Such type of crops are called rabi crops, and the examples of rabi crops are wheat, gram, pea, potato, barley, mustard, and so many crops are there. Now next type of crop on the basis of crop season is kharif crop. So the crops which are grown in summer season, means the crops they are sown in June and July. This is the beginning of rainy season. So we can say the crops which are grown in the beginning of rainy season in the month of June and July, and they are harvested in September or October. Such type of crops are called kharif crops, and these crops they are also called as summer season crops. Why? Because they are grown in summer season. So the crops which are grown in summer season means they are grown in June and July, and they are harvested in September and October. Such type of crops are called kharif crops, and the example of kharif crops are rice, maize, groundnut, soybean, cotton, pulses, and so many type of pulses. Now next topic is basic practices of crop production. We know students that growing crop is not an easy task, because when the farmers they start growing crops, it takes lot of time, and they have to prepare a lot of things. Means first of all, just for growing crop, they first of all they prepare the soil, then they sow the seeds, then they water the fields, they water the plants, then they provide fertilizers or they provide manures, and after that when crops will grow, then they will harvest it and they will store it. So it takes a lot of time, it takes too much time. So all that activities which a farmers do for growing a good crop, such type of activities are called agricultural practices. Means agricultural practices means the activities, the various type of activities or various type of tasks which a farmers perform to produce a good crop. Such type of activities are called agricultural practices. Now There are main 7 steps or 7 stages in growing of particular type of crop, or 7 steps in the agricultural practices. First one is preparation of soil, then sowing of seeds, application of manures and fertilizers, irrigation, weeding. Weeding means removal of weeds. That weeds are the wild plants that we have studied. Some of the weeds are good for us and some are very harmful. And next, harvesting, and the last step in the agricultural practice is storage. Before starting the steps or stages in or practices of agricultural production or crop production, one most important thing is agricultural implements. What are agricultural implements? The tools or the devices which we use during agricultural activities or agricultural task. We know, suppose we have to dig the soil. So what we use? We know for digging of the soil, we use a trowel or khurpi. All of you knowing about it, that suppose we have to dig a soil, then what we will do? First of all, we will use a trowel, means we use a khurpi. Or suppose we have to plow the field. So for that we use plow. Or all of you knowing about hoe or kudal. Suppose we have to dig a soil, then we use hoe or kudal also. So we need all these implements, all these devices, or all these tools for starting our agricultural practices. So the tools or the devices that we use to carry out so many type of various type of agricultural activities or agricultural tasks, such tools or such devices are called agricultural implements. So here we will study about so many type of agricultural implements. First of all, the first agricultural implement is plow. All of you knowing about plow, in Hindi it is called hal. So plow is used for plowing the field, and it is made up of wood or iron. So you can see this is the wooden plow and this is the iron plow. Okay, and in earlier time the plows, these are these two tools, this one is the wooden plow and this one is the iron plow. So in earlier time these plows were driven by animals. And animals, we all know, bulls were very frequently used. And this time also some farmers uses the plow which are driven by bulls, and sometimes they were driven by horses and camels also, means they need some strong animals. And nowadays the plows are used by tractors, means for tractors are used in plows instead of animals. So these two are the plows. Next one is hoe. Hoe, we all know, in Hindi it is called as kudal. So I think you all are familiar with this implement, this tool, we know. So this is also, it is made up of long rod, and you can see this is the long rod. It is either made up of wood or it is made up of iron. And from this part, from one end of this rod, one strong and broad bent plate of iron is fixed. So this is hoe, means this broad bent plate. It acts as a knife. So this is hoe. Next one is cultivator. So this is the implement. It is called cultivator. So it is also used for plowing the field, and they are also driven by tractors. And next one is leveler. So leveler is used after the plowing is done in the field. Some, if some big pieces of soil is left, so leveler level the soil. Leveler crush the big pieces or crumbs into the of the soil. Okay, so it is also you can see this is the part, this is leveler, and this is a large piece of wood or iron plank. And they are also, in earlier time they were driven by animals, and this time, in present time, they are driven by tractors. So leveling is done before sowing the seeds, means most probably after the process of plowing, the leveling process is done. Next one is the first agricultural practice, that is preparation of soil. Now, students, we know that soil is very, very important for plants. Why soil is important for plants? Because we know that plants, they are grown in soil, they obtain they obtain water and nutrients, means all type of nutrients. They obtain minerals from their soil through their roots. That thing we have studied in our previous classes also, that both water and nutrients, they are important for plants, and plants get these things, these nutrients, from the soil. We know that for the process of photosynthesis also, carbon dioxide is taken from atmosphere, but water is taken by the soil, from the soil, by the roots only. Next thing, roots of the plants, they are also fixed in their place, they are held in their place by the soil only. Now in soil, so many type of microorganisms are present, as we have studied about decomposers also. So decomposers are the microorganisms as fungi and bacteria. They are very, very important for soil fertility. And except microorganisms, some other organisms also, as earthworms. We know earthworm is also very important to increase the soil fertility. That is why they are called farmers friend. So many type of microorganisms and other organisms are present in the soil, which convert the dead and decaying materials present in the soil into dark colored humus. And humus is very, very fertile, it increases the soil fertility. That is why, and when soil will be fertile, then it will provide all the nutrients to the plants or the crops, and they will give us good produce. Okay, so soil is very important for plants, for crops. That is why, to start the agricultural practice, the first process is to prepare the soil, means your soil should be prepared very well. Now, the preparation of soil, it has two steps. The first step is plowing. What is plowing? Plowing is the first step, which include the loosening and turning of the soil. So the process of loosening and turning of the soil is called plowing, or it is also called as tilling. So what is the purpose of tilling or plowing of the soil? What happens when we do plowing? Then the soil become loose, and there is turning of the soil, means the soil which is present at the lower level, they come at the top, and the top soil will go to down. So this is a turning and loosening of the soil. So when your soil become loose, then it will contain a lot of air spaces. So when air spaces will be there in the soil, then they will consist of oxygen. So when plants will grow, their roots will get proper oxygen, and they will breathe very easily. So this is very important for the proper breathing or respiration process of roots of the plants. Next one, when soil will be loose, then roots can go deep down into the soil, and the plants will be fixed properly in the soil. Next advantage of this process is, when the plowing is done, then it uproots the undesirable plants. Undesirable plants means the weed plants. Now what is the need of removing the undesirable plants or weeds? That thing we will study later on in this part only. And so plowing process is very important to remove the undesirable plants or weeds. Next one is, when soil will be loose, then very easily and very uniformly the manure or fertilizers can be added, can be mixed in the soil, which is very, very important for plants or for crops. Next thing, we know that in soil, many microorganisms and earthworm, they are present in the soil, which are very important for fertility of soil. When soil will be fertile, then they will give nutrients to the crops or to the plants. So when soil will be loose, then there will be lot of air spaces, and in that air spaces oxygen will be present, so that will help to grow the aerobic microorganisms there, and earthworm also, it will very easily it will survive there, and it will keep on adding the humus in the soil. Next one, yes, next one is the turning of the soil, means nutrient rich soil which is present at the lower level, it comes to the top level. Okay, so it will be easily available to the plants. That is why this process is very important. Preparation of soil is very important. When soil will be not prepared well, then plants will not grow properly, crops will not grow properly. Next process of, or next step in preparation of soil is leveling, that we have studied. Leveling is done by leveler. So leveling process, what happen after the process of plowing, means after the plowing is done, sometimes big pieces of soil, they remain as it is. These big pieces are called crumbs. So when there will be big pieces of soil left in the field, so when we add manure or when we give the water to the soil, they will not mix properly. So there is need to break these crumbs, or there's need to break these big pieces of soil. So that thing is done with the help of leveler. So these two are the steps which comes in the preparation of soil. So next process after the preparation of soil, the next step in agricultural practices is sowing of seeds. So when the soil is prepared, what do farmers do? They sow the seeds in the soil. So the process of putting the seeds in the soil is called sowing of seeds. So when farmers sow the seeds in soil, or suppose you are also growing some plants, that time also we should select the good quality and healthy seeds. This is very important. Why? Because suppose we have taken unhealthy, means the quality of the seed is not good, or it is diseased seed. So what will happen when they grow when they grow into a plant, the plant will be diseased. Okay, and it will not give us good produce. That is why when we sow the seeds, that seeds should be selected properly. They should be of good quality and healthy. Now how we can select the good quality and healthy crops, healthy seeds? So what we have to do, and I think this is very simple thing you have seen in your kitchen, when your mother soak the seeds or when you soak the seeds, then you can see this thing is very common. I think you all have seen. Suppose we have some seeds. Suppose we are having some suppose we are soaking the gram seeds or chickpea seeds. Okay, so what happened, first of all we take a tumbler. Suppose here we have taken a beaker and we have filled water in it. Now suppose we have taken gram. Okay, suppose we have taken gram seeds. So what we will do, we will take the seeds and we will fill water on in the tumbler. Suppose this is beaker, we have taken the seeds in the beaker and we have filled water in it. When you will pour the water in it, and when the seeds will be there, you can see some seeds will settle down, as these seeds are settled down, and some seeds, they will float at the surface of water. Why? Because the seeds which settle down at the bottom, they are good soils, they are good seeds. Okay, and the seeds which are floating on the surface of the water, these seeds are damaged seeds. These seeds are hollow from inside. That is why they became lighter and they are floating. So these seeds which are floating on the surface of water, these are the bad seeds, and the seeds which are settled down at the bottom, these seeds are good seeds. So this is the method how we can select the good and bad seeds. Now next thing is, the seeds, they should be sown at correct depth. Why this process is this thing is important? Because suppose when we sow the seeds, so deep in the soil, then what will happen? The roots of that plants, they will not be able to respire, so they will not survive when we sow the soil in so deep in the soil. Okay, and suppose we are sowing the seeds at the surface of soil, then what will happen? Then some birds or some insects, they can damage the seeds. So seeds should be sown at the correct depth in the soil. Next thing is that we should keep in our mind. Next point is seeds should be sown at proper distance from each other. Why? When they are sown at proper distance, then it will prevent overcrowding, because suppose all plants are all seeds are sown at very less distance, very close to each other, then what will happen? They all will grow and there will be overcrowding, and they will start competing among themselves only, just for getting water, nutrients and sunlight. So seeds should be sown at proper distance. That is why when they will grow, then they all will grow proper space, proper water, nutrients and sunlight. That is why seeds should be sown at proper distance. Next thing, some seeds are there as rice seeds, tomato seeds or onion or brinjal. They are not able to survive in the soil directly, means they cannot sown directly in the soil. That is why first of all they should be sown in nursery. They should be sown in a small area. That small area is called nursery, and where they are sown, it is called nursery bed. So first of all they are sown in nursery, and there the seeds germinate into small plants, means they are grown in the seedlings. From there only, from the nursery only, the farmers select the healthy seedlings and they transfer it or transplant it in the field. So this is called transplanting of seedlings. So it helps the farmers to get healthy seedlings only, and seedlings, they are grown at the proper distances, and yes, it increases the crop production only. That is why this is very important for some seeds, that first of all they should be sown in the nursery, and from nursery only the healthy seedlings are transplanted in the field. Now, methods of sowing seeds. So there are two methods of sowing the seeds. First one is the manual sowing. Manual sowing means just by scattering the seeds in the fields by hand. The farmers what the farmers do, they take the seeds and they just scatter it. They just scatter it in the soil. So this method is called broadcasting. Means when manual sowing is done, then the farmers, they just simply scatter the seeds in the field, and this process is called broadcasting. So you can see, this is the first picture. You can see where the farmer is scattering the seed, means the process of broadcasting is done, and this process is just seeds, they fall down at random places, means there's no they are not uniformly distributed, or they are unevenly distributed in the field. And this picture you can see here, the seeds are sown in the field in the soil, but this process takes lot of time. Okay, so generally farmers prefer this one. Next method is by using seed drills. So what are seed drills? Seed drill is an implement or a tool which consists of 5 to 6 vertical pipes, as you can see in this picture, and it has a funnel at the top. So farmers use this drill by attaching it to a plow, and when we use the seed drill, then what happens? The seeds are evenly distributed with proper distance, and they reach at the right depth also. So this thing also, the seed drill also, now they are driven by tractors. In earlier time they are driven by bulls. Now, next step after the process of sowing of seeds is application of manures and fertilizers, means the process of adding manures and fertilizers in the soil. So what is the need of that? We know that soil is rich in nutrients, means already so many nutrients, minerals are present in the soil. We know that plants, they take nutrients from the soil for their proper growth. Means so many nutrients are present in the soil, and plants take that nutrients from the soil through their roots. But what happened when farmers grow crops continuously in the same field? Means in one field only they are growing so many crops continuously, one after another. So what happened? Just because of the growing crops continuously, the crops, they take nutrients from the soil, and the soil become nutrient deficient. Means soil become poor in nutrients. So just because of that, the soil become nutrient deficient, the crop yield or the crop produce become less, because plants will not get the proper nutrients from the soil, because soil itself, it is not having the proper nutrients. So when any crop will grow in that particular type of soil where nutrient is not present, or the soil which is nutrient deficient, in that case what happen, the crops will not get the proper nutrients, and crop yield or crop produce will decrease, or it will become less. So in that case, what the farmers do, they add manures or fertilizers in the soil. Now what is manure? Manure is an organic substance which is obtained after decomposition of plants and animal waste. Plants and animal waste, as we have studied in class 6th, these are the biodegradable waste. So biodegradable waste can be very easily degraded by microorganisms, and when they decompose them, it is converted into dark colored substance which is called manure, or we have studied about it, it is called compost. And the process of adding manures to the soil is called manuring. So we know that in manure, it is organic, it is made up of plant, and it is made by decomposition of plants and animal waste. And plants and animal waste itself, they contain lot of nutrients. So when they decomposed, obviously the compost or the manure we get after decomposition process, that manure is also, it is rich in lot of nutrients. So when manure is added to the soil, it replenish the nutrients in the soil, or we can say soil will get or regain its nutrients. Okay, so here we will study about three type of manures that are commonly used by farmers. So first one is farmyard manure. In farmyard manure, animal dung, urine, straw, leaves, and some other farmyard wastes are found. Next one is green manure. So in green manure basically it consists of green plants, especially leguminous plants, because leguminous plants means pulse plants, so they are rich in nutrients. So this type of manure is called green manure. Now compost. So compost we have studied in our previous classes also, that we know that compost can be obtained by decomposition of dead plants and animals. In class 6 we have studied how we can make a compost and how we can make vermicompost. In both the things we have studied. So compost is very nutrient rich manure, and it is generally used by farmers, and we also, when we grow plants at our home, generally we use compost. So we know that compost is made by dumping plants and animal waste in pits, and we allow it to decompose by bacteria and fungi, and they decompose it, they degrade it, and they converted it into dark colored substances which is called as compost. Now next thing is fertilizers. So what are fertilizers? Fertilizers are the chemical substances which are rich in particular nutrients. Particular nutrient means some special type of nutrients are present in fertilizers. Suppose any soil is deficient in nitrogen, so we can use that particular type of fertilizer which can give nitrogen to the soil. Okay, and these fertilizers, they are prepared, they are made in factories. Some of the example of fertilizers is NPK. NPK means NPK is a fertilizer which supply nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium to the crops. NPK, in NPK, N is nitrogen, P phosphorus and K is potassium. So when we use NPK in the soil, then it will supply nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium in the soil. Next one is urea. Urea is also, it is a rich source of nitrogen. Then CAN is actually, it is calcium ammonium nitrate. It supplies calcium and nitrogen in the soil. And one more fertilizer is there, that is diammonium phosphate. It also supplies nitrogen and phosphorus to the soil, and so many other fertilizers are present. And fertilizers, they are chemical rich, so they are not so good for soil, but yes, they are very light in weight, means they are not so heavy, just like manures. Manures are organic, that is why they are very heavy in weight. Fertilizers, they are very light in weight and they provide some specific nutrients to the soil. Suppose soil is deficient in nitrogen, so we can give urea. Suppose soil is deficient in phosphorus, so obviously we can give NPK, or we can give diammonium phosphate to the soil. Okay, and yes, it has so many disadvantages also. It, first of all, it make the soil less fertile, means it affect the soil fertility also. And yes, it causes, it is a very big cause of soil and water pollution. Now some other methods are also there which help the soil to regain its fertility. First one is fallowing. So what is fallowing? It is a practice in the agriculture where the farmers, they leave their field or they leave their land uncultivated for one or more seasons. Means just they leave their field as it is without growing any crop for one or more season. So it allows the soil to naturally regain the nutrients. The decomposition of dead plants and animals by decomposers, means the microbes like bacteria and fungi, they return the nutrients to the soil. But this practice is not possible by all the farmers, because farmers, they need to earn money. That is why this is not economic reason, this is not an economical practice. So following this process or this practice is generally, it is not followed by all the farmers. Next one is crop rotation. So crop rotation means, suppose one field is there, okay, and same crop is grown in a field year after year. So what will happen? The fertility of that soil, it will decrease, because the soil become poor in nutrients, or soil become nutrient deficient. If different crops with different nutrient requirements, they are grown in different seasons, then the fertility of soil and the nutrients of the soil will not affect it too much. As for example, suppose wheat or rice crops, they use large amount of nitrogen from the soil, and this nitrogen, it again, the soil can replenish it, or soil can regain it when we grow some other crops which can fix atmospheric nitrogen. So what is crop rotation? Crop rotation is a practice of growing different crops in different seasons in rotation, so that the soil is not depleted of its nutrients, and this practice is called crop rotation. So generally, suppose we are growing wheat or rice, that crops, they need nitrogen, they take nitrogen from the soil. So suppose in any field continuously year after year we are growing wheat or rice plant only, then obviously the nitrogen will be deficient in the soil become nitrogen deficient. But suppose one season we have grown wheat or rice, and in next season we have grown some other plant which can replenish the nitrogen, which can fix the nitrogen in the soil. Then one season wheat or rice will take the nitrogen from the soil, and in other season then other plant will replenish the nitrogen in the soil. So this is crop rotation, means we are growing different crops in different seasons in rotation. So this is called crop rotation. And generally leguminous crops, they are used in crop rotation because leguminous plants, they are very good plants. They have root nodules, means in the in the roots some nodules like structures are formed, and in that nodule like structure one bacteria, that is rhizobium bacteria, is present. About rhizobium bacteria we have studied in class 7th. So we have studied that there is symbiotic relationship between rhizobium bacteria and the roots of leguminous plants. So rhizobium bacteria, it get the shelter and it get the food from the roots of leguminous plants, and in return it has the capability to fix the atmospheric nitrogen in the soil, and it fix it in the nitrogen in the soluble form, means in the simpler forms, so that the roots of the plants also they can take it very easily, and it can remain in the soil, it can retain in the soil for so long time. Okay, so this process where the rhizobium bacteria fix the atmospheric nitrogen and convert it into usable form, it is called nitrogen fixation. So this is crop rotation where the plants where different crops are grown in different seasons in rotation. This is crop rotation, and this is very efficient method of to regain the nutrients by soil naturally. Now next process or next practice to regain the soil nutrients is mixed cropping. So in mixed cropping what happen, when two or more than two crops they are grown simultaneously, means at one time at the same time in the same field, then it is called mixed cropping. Mixed cropping is also called as intercropping. So the crops which are selected in such a manner, in such a way that the nutrients required by one crops are provided by the other crop. Means generally suppose we are growing leguminous crops and cereal crops together, so in one row we can grow leguminous crop, and in the other row we can grow cereal crop. So obviously cereal crop will need nitrogen from the soil, and leguminous crops they will fix the atmospheric nitrogen by the root nodules where rhizobium bacteria is present. So leguminous plants only they are giving nitrogen to the soil, which is taken by cereal plants, means grain crops. Okay, so when two or more than two crops they are grown simultaneously in same field at same time, then it is called mixed cropping or intercropping. Now next process is irrigation. So irrigation is the process of supplying water to the crops in the field at specific intervals. One more thing, before irrigation we have studied the process of application of manures and fertilizers. So why before irrigating the soil we are giving we are giving manures or fertilizers to the soils, so that when we mix manure or fertilizers in the soil, after that we will irrigate it very easily. The manures or the fertilizers they will mixed with the soil. That is why first we give manures or fertilizers to the soil, then we irrigate the soil. Okay, so irrigation means supplying water to the crops in the field. Now when we know that water is very important for crops, means without water seed will not germinate, and roots they will not develop properly, and they will dry. And nutrients also they move up in the plants from the soil just in the presence of water, and water they protect the plants from all seasonal variations like frost and hot air currents, etc. So water is very important for the proper growth and development of crop plants. Now we know the sources of the irrigation. We know that fields, they are irrigated with water that we take from ponds or lakes or canals or wells, tube wells, rivers and dam, etc. Okay. Now, methods of irrigation. So when we see method of irrigation, then two type of methods we can see. First one is traditional method, and next one is modern method. Modern method means the method that farmers use nowadays, and traditional method, these are the methods that farmers used in earlier time. Now, traditional methods of irrigation, it has four methods, that is motor pulley system, chain pump, rahat or lever system, and degli. So you can see in all four type of traditional methods of irrigation, lot of water is taken out from groundwater and they are given to the soil, given in the field. So there is lot of wastage of water also. So for conserving the water, nowadays farmers use modern methods, and these methods of irrigation are generally aimed for conserving water. And at the same time, these methods, they also ensures that water is equally distributed in all the different parts in a field. So there are two methods which are commonly used in the field. First one is a sprinkler system and one is drip system. So about drip system, we have studied in class 7th also, where the water falls drop by drop directly at the base or at the directly at the position of the roots, and it is very economical method, means water is not at all wasted in this method. Now, next one is a sprinkler system. So sprinkler system is also, it is very useful in the uneven land or in the sandy soil also, where the very insufficient water is present in sandy soil. So what happen is sprinkler system, in a sprinkler system, one pipe is there, you can see one perpendicular pipe is present with rotating nozzle means its nozzle, it's continuously rotate on the top, and this is joined to the main pipeline at the regular intervals. It is joined to the main pipeline, means main pipeline supplies the water, and water enters into the pipe, this perpendicular pipe you can see in the picture, and the water, it escapes from the rotating nozzle and it sprinkles water on the crops. So these two methods, sprinkler system and drip irrigation system, these two methods are the modern methods of irrigation which are widely used, and they conserve a lot of water also. Next process in the agricultural practices is weeding or removal of weeds. So first of all, what are weeds? Weeds are the unwanted and uncultivated plants. As we have studied in the starting about cultivated plant and wild plants. So in wild plant, we have studied that they grow in nature by themselves. So they are weeds only. Weeds are the unwanted, undesirable plants, uncultivated plants that grow along with the crop plants. So what happens when they grow along with the crop plants? They grow with the crop plants and they compete with them. How they compete? They compete with the crop plants for more water, for mineral, for sunlight, for space, for everything. They compete with them. That is why this is very important to remove the weeds, to remove the unwanted plants from the field from time to time. So the removal of weeds from a field is called weeding. When the weeds are removed from a field, and it is called weeding. So as I have told you in the starting of the chapter, that some weeds are important for us, some are useful for us, and some are very harmful for our crops. So some of the examples of the good weeds or useful weeds are amaranthus. Amaranthus means in Hindi it is called cholai. I think all of you are knowing. We know we eat cholai ka saag, or we eat bathua. So these are the weeds which are very good for, which are very useful for us. And some other weeds that grow along with crops and they compete with them. That weeds are very harmful for our crops. So there is need to remove them. So The weeding process can be done by two methods. First one is manual removal, means manual weeding, and next one is removal with chemicals. So the weeds, when they are removed by hand, or they are pulled out or uprooted by hand, or by cutting them close to the ground, then this is manual removal. This process is done with the help of trowel, means khurpi or a harrow. And next one is removal with chemicals. So how they removed with chemicals? Some chemicals are there, they are used to control weeds, and these chemicals, they destroy the weeds. These chemicals are called weedicides. Yes, these are the chemicals, they remove, they destroy the weeds, but they do not harm the crops. So such chemicals which destroy the weeds but do not harm the crops, they are called weedicides. These chemicals, they are very poisonous, so they should be sprayed very carefully in the fields. They are sprayed with the help of sprayers, and they should be sprayed very carefully by the farmers also. Farmers should cover their nose and their mouth and their hands also. They should cover it properly, and they should take care of their eyes also while spraying the chemicals in the field. And these are very poisonous also. That is why whenever we use any fruit or any crop or any vegetables, then we should wash it properly, because most of the time farmers use that weedicides in their fields. So some of the examples of weedicides, these chemicals are 2,4-D, Dalapon, Metachlor, and Ceniazines. These are some of the weedicides. Next process is harvesting process. So once the crop become mature, farmers cut it and collect it. So when the process of cutting and gathering of crop is done, this is called harvesting. Means the process of cutting and collection of crops. This process is called harvesting. As for example, we know that rabi crop harvested in March and April, and rice, which is a kharif crop, it is harvested in September and October. So when we cut the crop and gather them, collect them, then it is called harvesting. And the harvesting process, it is done by two methods. First one by using sickles, as you can see in the first picture. Sickle, and Hindi all of you knowing, it is called hasiya. So this is the sickle. And second one, it is a machine called harvester machine. So harvester machine, it is attached to a tractor, and it harvests the crops. Now two more methods are there. About these two methods we have studied in class 6th. First one is threshing, and next one is winnowing. So what is threshing? Threshing is the process of separation of grains from the harvested crops. So when we separate the grains from their crops, from their stem, then it is called threshing. And it is done by it is done manually, or it is done by thresher. So threshing process, it is done by hand. How it is done by hand? It is done manually by striking the harvested crops against any hard surface. Then also the grains become separated, and it can be done by machine also, and that machine is called thresher. Nowadays one more machine is there, that is called combine. And combine is a machine which is used for harvesting and threshing. Means it both the work of harvesting and threshing is done by the machine combine. Next one is winnowing. So after the process of threshing completed, the grains, they have to be separated from the chaff. So the process of separating grains from the chaff with the help of wind, it is called winnowing. So in this process, the threshed crop is dropped on the ground from a height. The grains or the seeds, they are heavier in weight, so they fall almost straight down, and the chaff, it is very lighter, that is why it blown away by the wind. So this is the process of winnowing. So the next step or next process after the process of harvesting is storage. So after the crops are harvested and collected, they are stored. We know that the fresh crop, they have lot of moisture, and if the grains and seeds, they are stored in this state only, in this condition only, when they are having lot of moisture, so there is chance they get spoiled or they're attacked by microorganisms like bacteria and fungi, and they will ruin, they will spoil the crops. So first of all, moisture should be removed. First they are dried, and after that they are stored properly. They are dried in the sun to remove excess moisture, and then the seeds or the grains, they are stored properly. So during the storage process, food grains, they need to be protected from rats, worms, or other insects. So storage can be done by two ways. First of all, first one is on a small scale, mean on domestic level, where the food grains, they are stored in jute bags or some metallic bins, etc. And after that, the dried neem leaves, they are put while storing. That we do our homes also, we use dried neem leaves to put with grains, and it protects the grains from worms and insects, etc. Next one, on a large scale, means on commercial level. So on commercial level, the food grains, they are put in the gunny bags or silos. As you can see, they are stored in silos. These are the silos, or they are put in gunny bags, or they are used and they are stored in granaries. So these are the granaries. So inside the silos and granaries, grains are protected from rats and from insects also by chemical treatment. So this is the storage of, and this is the most important part of the crop agricultural practices, that they should be stored properly. Next topic of this chapter, last topic of this chapter, is food from animals. So this topic also, you people are so familiar, because in class 6 you have studied that so many foods we obtain from animals. So the rearing of animals on a large scale with proper food means where we are rearing them. Why? We are rearing them with proper food for from shelter, and we are taking care of them to get products from them. This is called animal husbandry. And what the products we get from animals, we get milk, meat, eggs, honey. So many products are there that we get from animals. So this is the process of rearing of animals on a larger scale with proper food, shelter, and care. It is called animal husbandry. So, this is the last topic of your chapter. So, go through the chapter properly, read the chapter, and then watch the video. And if you are having any question, then you can ask me. Thank you, students.